Good morning. Grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk about that spare bedroom of yours. You know the one, the corner of the guest room where you've got the standing desk, the ergonomic chair, and that ring light for your Zoom calls. For the last few years, that space has been your sanctuary. It's the place where you traded the 45-minute commute for a 45-second walk in your socks. You thought you were saving money? You thought you'd finally beaten the system. But here's the deal. Your city just sent you the bill for that empty office downtown. I'm talking about the usage-based residential levy. It's a new term popping up in municipal budgets from Boston to San Francisco, and it's hitting the average remote worker to the tune of $5,000 a year. That's not a typo, $5,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. While you were enjoying your work-from-home freedom, your local government was staring at a massive, gaping hole in its pocket, and honestly, they've decided that your home office is the new cash cow. Think about it. For decades, cities were funded by the skyscrapers. The big tech firms and the law offices paid the occupancy taxes, the commercial property taxes, and the business fees that kept the parks clean and the subways running. But now, those towers are half empty, and the tax man is looking for a new target. He's looking at your Wi-Fi signal, he's looking at your square footage, and he's reclassifying your quiet home office as an income-producing microzone. This isn't just a theory anymore. In the FY 2026 budget proposals, we're seeing residential property tax shares hitting 62% of total city revenue. That's a massive shift from just 3 years ago. The WFH honeymoon, it's officially over. Now the question isn't whether you're working from home, the question is, can you afford to? If your city is charging you rent to work in your own house, what does that do to your bottom line? So, how did we get here? Let's break this down, because the math is actually fascinating. We have to talk about something economists call the urban doom loop. It sounds dramatic. I know, but look at the data. In San Francisco, office vacancy rates have climbed to 30.1%. In Manhattan, it's 22%. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are empty canyons of glass and steel that used to generate billions in tax revenue. Since 2022, these vacancies have more than doubled. In New York City alone, the decline in commercial real estate value has led to a $1.16 billion loss in tax revenue. $1.16 billion. That's a lot of potholes that aren't getting filled. But here's where it gets really strange. The cities can't just downsize like a startup. They have fixed costs. They still have to pay the police, the fire department, and the interest on their massive debts. They are like a machine that needs a certain amount of fuel just to stay idling, and right now, the fuel tank is running dry. And this is the part you need to pay attention to, the debt maturity wall. Right now, in 2026, there's a $1.8 trillion wall of commercial real estate debt coming due. $1.8 trillion. These are loans that were taken out when interest rates were low and offices were full. Now, those loans need to be refinanced in a world where the buildings are worth 40% less.
It's a refinancing crisis that municipal governments simply cannot ignore.
When the skyscrapers stop paying the bills, who do you think the tax man visits next? They can't tax the empty desks downtown, so they're following the laptops to the suburbs. It's a pivot from taxing centralized commercial hubs to distributed residential nodes. It's efficient, it's digital, and if you're a remote worker, it's incredibly expensive. The math stops working for the city, and when math stops working, politicians start getting very creative with their definitions of taxable utility. Now, this is the part I find wild. You're probably wondering, how do they even know I'm working from my guest room? Well, welcome to the GovTech boom. While everyone was focused on AI chatbots, a whole new industry was being built to track your digital presence. It's called compliance as a service, and it's the hottest thing in venture capital right now. In fact, VC flow into GovTech tax enforcement startups increased by 45% last year alone.
Here's how it works. These firms help municipalities implement geolocation-based tracking. They're not looking at your emails, that would be too invasive. Instead, they're looking at metadata. They track IP addresses, bandwidth spikes, and utility surges. If your house consistently draws high-speed data and extra electricity between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., 5 days a week, the system flags you as a home-based commercial entity.
It's a high-tech surveillance system designed to verify your work hours. They're using the same technology that tech giants use to target you with ads, but they're using it to audit your residency status. If you claim you live in a low-tax suburb, but your IP address shows you're working from a high-tax city center apartment, the algorithm catches it in real time. This isn't just about a flat fee. It's about a precise, granular way to recapture every cent of lost business occupancy tax. That number blew me away when I first saw it, the idea that 45% more money is going into tracking taxpayers than ever before. It's an infrastructure of enforcement that's being built quietly behind the scenes, and honestly, most people aren't even aware it's happening until that $5,000 levy shows up on their property tax assessment. If this feels like a radical invasion of privacy, you're not alone. But for a city facing an $877 million deficit, privacy is a luxury they feel they can no longer afford. Let's zoom out for a second, because believe it or not, we've seen this movie before. If this feels like a strange new world, you haven't looked far enough back into history. Back in 1696, England and Wales introduced something called the window tax. It's exactly what it sounds like. The government wanted to tax wealth, but they didn't have a way to conduct invasive income audits, so they looked for a proxy. They realized that wealthy people lived in big houses with lots of windows. If they couldn't see your bank account, they could at least see your glass. The logic in 2026 is 88% similar. Governments are taxing your home office bandwidth and your residential square footage as a proxy for the business activity they can no longer see in the downtown skyscrapers. It's the window tax for the digital age. Back then, people responded by bricking up their windows to avoid the tax. Today, people are looking at moving to tax-free jurisdictions, but this creates a massive conflict between the experts. On one side, you have the bulls, like Harvard's Edward Glaser. He argues that cities have to evolve. They can't be workshops anymore, they have to be playgrounds. He thinks these new revenue models, like the residential levies, are a necessary evil to fund the transition to high-amenity urban living. Think more parks, better culture, and safer streets. He says if you want to live in a world-class city, you have to help pay for it, even if you're working from your couch. But then you have the bears, like NYU's Arpit Gupta. He's the one who coined the term urban doom loop. He warns that taxing remote workers will only accelerate the collapse. If you charge people $5,000 extra to live in the city, the most mobile and productive people will simply leave. They'll head to Florida or Texas or out into the woods where the tax man hasn't caught up yet. And when those people leave, the tax base shrinks even further, and the levy for everyone who stays has to go up. It's a vicious cycle. So, where does that leave you? Let's look at the map for the rest of 2026. Many city councils are now adopting budget neutrality clauses. That sounds like a boring accounting term, but it's actually a fancy way of saying if the commercial sector stops paying, the residential sector must pick up the slack. It's a guarantee that the city's total revenue stays the same, regardless of where the work is happening. Your house is effectively the new office tower. We are looking at what experts call a permanent 40% destruction of urban property wealth. If you own a home in a major city, you need to understand that your asset is being reevaluated, not just as a place to live, but as a commercial utility for the local government. The days of free work from home savings are being legislated out of existence. Your home is no longer just where the heart is. It's where the tax man finally caught up with the future. So here's your checklist for the new year. First, check your local budget proposals for infrastructure maintenance fees or residential service levies. Second, look at your utility bills for new municipal surcharges. And finally, ask yourself, is the convenience of your home office worth a $5,000 annual premium? If the world's largest pension funds are pulling out of urban real estate because they see the writing on the wall, what does that tell you about your own financial safety? It's a fascinating shift in the social contract. For a century, we went to the city to work. Now, the city is coming to us to get paid. Let that land. Think about that next time you're setting up your background for a video call. You're not just in a guest room, you're in a high-value, taxable business zone. And the meter is running. I'll leave you with this. In a world where your physical location is no longer tied to your income, why are you still paying for the infrastructure of the past?